Welcome to another episode of the Blue Chair Book Review. I am Janalie Youngblood, and I am here again with USA Today Bestselling Author Janalie Youngblood. Today, we're going to be reviewing your book, Cold Feet. This book is your first rom-com book?
Yes, it is.
So I am going to read just a little brief description, and then we'll get into our questions. Moving back home to live with her parents was not part of Albany's plan. Neither was doing the alterations on the wedding dress of her high school nemesis, who happens to be marrying the man who broke her heart. She's going to need ice cream to drown her frustrations, lots of it. Oh, and a Netflix binge session might help too. So tell me a little bit about Cold Feet.
So this was really fun to write. I really enjoy this. So it's written in first person, and I really enjoyed getting into Albany's head. You know, like the introduction said, she thought she had her life all planned out. She left comfort kind of in this blaze of glory, and she went off to New York to make her way in the fashion world.
Yeah.
And things didn't quite work out like she hoped. And so now here she is back living with her parents.
This is the first book in your Good Girls Don't Come Last series, correct?
Yes.
How many others have you written so far?
So I'm actually working on the third one right now. So yes.
So you have two that you've released already.
Yes.
Was it difficult to transition from your typical writing into rom-com?
It was a little bit of a challenge at first. I had wanted to do it for a while because I really enjoy reading rom-com, but I was really intimidated by writing in first person. And also, I didn't really know if I could be funny. and so it was fun to really try. It took me a little while to get in her head, but once I did, it just flowed. Like I just really felt a good, strong. I'd often heard authors say, well, it's fun to write in first person because you feel so connected with the character.
Right.
And it really is true. You do feel a strong connection because you're inside their head.
It's hard too to write humor because things that you think might be funny, your audience might not think is as funny.
Exactly.
So I imagine that was a little bit more of a challenge to make sure it landed with your audience as well as things that you thought were funny.
Well, and so my husband Patrick is as you know, is always cracking jokes,
right.
Always saying funny things. And then when I started getting reviews on Cold Feet, and a lot of people said that they really laughed out loud, that they thought it was hilarious. I went to him and said, see, I can be funny.
Yes.
So he's still not convinced, by the way.
No. You said Albany is your main character, and this story is written from her perspective. So tell me a little bit about Albany.
So she's the only child, and she grew up wealthy. But she's just really frank. I love how Albany just says what she thinks, and she's not afraid to mince words.
Yes.
And she really does have this, I call it kind of this over-the-top outlandish personality, which was fun to write in rom-com. And she really is not happy at all about being home. And she has this ongoing tension with her mom. And their relationship is kind of funny because every time she comes home, she feels like that her mom makes her latest project. And her mom is involved in all of these charities and all these women's organizations. And Albany's just like, I don't want to have to fool with that, And her mom's like this impeccable dresser, and she's always like, her mom's like, always at her exercise class and I think Albany says something like she hasn't eaten a French fry since age 12.
Yeah.
And Albany's just like, yeah, whatever. I'm just going to be myself. So
yeah. Did you have an inspiration for writing this particular book?
I did, and I hate to even say it on a podcast, but my sister Paige was a lot of my inspiration for this book, and it's funny because Albany is definitely different than Paige, but I've always admired how Paige is not afraid to say what she thinks.
Yeah.
And so I put a lot of those experiences in, which was fun.
Tell me about some of the situations that Albany finds herself in, because she lives in a small town. Well, she comes back to a small town, And you and I both know that growing up in a small town can be quite the adventure at times, for good and for bad.
Yes.
So can you tell me about maybe one of the situations that Albany finds herself in once she goes home to Comfort?
Yes, so one of my favorite ones. So she goes to the grocery store. She's just had this tiff with her mother. And so she goes to the grocery store, and the chapter starts with, I need ice cream, lots of it.
Yes.
And so she loves Ben and Jerry's Chunky Monkey. And so she goes to the freezer section to get it. Of course, there's none there, and that has its own story. I won't spoil it.
Yeah.
But then she's forced to get another kind of ice cream. So she grabs like several pints of it, throws it in her buggy, and she finally gets up to the checkout. And of course, like you said, so you have to tell them you grew up in
Yes,
Malad.
I grew up in Malad, Idaho, very small town.
And I grew up in Stevenson, Alabama, and you know what? They're actually almost identical in size.
Yeah.
I think at Stevenson, when I was living there, had about 3,000 people, and is that about what?
About, give or take, Malad has a little over 3,000. Yeah.
Okay, so we know exactly what, I mean, you know everybody, right?
Yes.
And everybody knows you, and so she gets up to the the checkout line, and of course the lady behind the cashier, her name is Dimples, and she sees Albany, and she says, well, looky what the cat dragged in, and then of course Albany's piling this ice cream, on the conveyor belt,
Right.
and Dimples says, well, honey, she said, boy, she said, that's a whole lot of ice cream. She said, if I were going to be parading around in a bathing suit, in a beauty contest, I certainly wouldn't be eating all of that. And Albany said, well, yeah, me neither. And then Dimples kind of leans in close and says, don't try to play dumb with me, Missy. I know you're signed up for the Comfort Beauty Pageant this weekend. And so that's how Albany realizes that her mother signed her up for the pageant.
Yeah, not planning on doing a beauty pageant when she got back to Comfort, but...
Yeah, but that's what but her mother, and here she feels like that she's at this low point in her life,
right,
because her job didn't work out like she thought. She's drowning her sorrows in ice cream. Last thing she wants to do is put on a swimsuit and go parade in front of the town.
Well, and her nemesis, all growing up, she gets back and finds out she's engaged to her high school sweetheart, right? To Albany's high school sweetheart.
Yes.
So, that is Gavin.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about Gavin.
So, of course, Gavin is the hunk. I mean, he was the athlete in high school and ended up going to Jacksonville State University on a baseball scholarship. And he broke Albany's heart, and she still has not gotten over it. And then here she comes back home, and she had heard that he was dating Colette, but she didn't have any idea that they were engaged. And then her mother, because she's not going to let Albany sit around feeling sorry for herself, she gets her first alterations job, which happens to be doing Colette's wedding dress. So here she is finding out that's how she finds out that Gavin is engaged to Colette. So she's not a happy camper when she gets there.
So it sounds like a lot of things are going wrong in Albany's life. Like you said, she had to move home and all these things are happening. How did these things influence her decisions during the book?
So she gets herself into so much trouble because she's trying to thwart her mom. And she ends up on this horrible date because her mother wants to fix her up with this podiatrist, and she's like, I'm not going out with this podiatrist. And so she ends up going on a date with Mac from the meat counter at the grocery store, and it just does not turn out well.
Yeah.
So a lot of the things she does it kind of to spite her mother, and she gets herself into some horrible jams in the meantime.
Right, and doesn't realize that her mom probably knows what's best instead of defying her mom. Maybe she should listen. I mean, we all experience that at times.
I think we do. Yeah, there's some interesting things that happen between Albany and her mom. There are a few twists and turns that take place.
Right. So when she's at the grocery store buying all of the ice cream, Albany runs into Fern Primrose, and that's the mother of her best friend growing up.
Yes.
Albany gets the impression that there are some concerning things going on with Penelope. How does this play into the second book? Because Penelope is your main character in that book, correct?
Yes. So Albany has been in New York this whole time, and she and Penn were very close, but she feels guilty because she hasn't gone to see Penn since she's gotten back home. And part of it is because Albany does feel like she's a failure, and Albany is, what you see is what you get. Everything she wears, everything on her shirt sleeve. Penelope is the complete opposite. Penelope is this Southern lady from the word go, and she's got this perfect life, and so Albany really feels like that she needs to work her way up to go and see her, because she doesn't want to see Penn and feel like that her life is even worse. But when she sees Fern, Penn's mom, and she sort of hints that all things might not be great. Penelope has married her high school sweetheart, Tim Norwood, and he's kind of like the royalty of the town. His family is, and so it kind of makes Albany feel a little bit of guilt, because she thinks, okay, I've got to go and see her and find out what's going on.
Yeah.
And of course, you don't find out what's going on until the next book.
Until the second book.
Yes.
How did you come up with the name for the series for your rom-coms?
So years ago, I'm trying to remember how many years. It was probably 25 years ago. I had a dream, and it was this crazy dream, and I dreamt that I had written this song and that it just went platinum. And of course, see, that's because that, I think I can carry a decent tune, but that's about as far as it goes, right? But the name of the song, and I actually remembered a few lyrics from the song, so when I woke up I wrote them down, but the name of it was Good Girls Don't Come Last. And when I started writing this, I thought, you know what? I think sometimes we need to feel like that we need to reward people for doing the right thing.
Right.
And I kind of wanted this to be a fun group of girls, good girls, who they do make good choices, and things do turn out okay in the end. So that was the inspiration.
So there's Cold Feet, book number 1, and Practically Perfect is your second book, and that is also available on your website and on Amazon.
Yes.
What's next for this series?
So the next one that I'm working on now is called High Heels and Big Deals. And it's an up and coming country music singer, and her name is Presley. And those who have read the second book will recognize Bo. Bo is Penelope's brother, and I think it was Penelope that was describing him, that says that his temper's shorter than a buzz cut.
Yes.
But he's a fireman, and he's a bit of a player, and so he's going to cross paths with Presley, and that's kind of how that story starts.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Blue Chair Book Review. If you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe. You can also click the little bell icon to be notified of any new episodes. You can listen and subscribe to your favorite podcast apps. Find all of Jennifer's books on Amazon and her website, jenniferyoungblood.com. We can't wait to share more books with you.
Thank you.